Hello YouTubers. I'm going to show you an install for an alternator on a 2002 CRV Honda 4-wheel drive. Okay, so earlier what I did was I disassembled everything ahead of time, because I mean, if I had done that with undoing the bolts and breaking out all the tools, it would have taken quite some time to go through this video. So what I did was like I said, I disassembled everything, and just to kind of give you an idea on what it takes just to get to the alternator on these things. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to take off this top bar, okay, on your Honda CRV. Now, I'm no professional mechanic, I'm going to tell you this right now, but I didn't see any other way to take out the old alternator and put in a new one. Okay, so that's what I did. I took out this bar first. All right, you see it? There'll be some bolts, some clamps, things of that nature as you take it out. Okay, I set it off to the side. Now you can get away with leaving a couple of cables hooked up to it, so that you don't have to take it out completely, but you do want to have it so you move it away from the engine. There it is right there. There's the engine, folks. Okay, the next thing you want to do, which is the biggest hassle of all, but can be done if you do it carefully and take your time, is you got to take out the radiator. This whole radiator has to come out of the CRV Honda. Okay, down below there are hoses and let's see, some hoses and some connections that need to come out as well. But you have to get under the car to do that. But before you take out anything, before you take out the radiator at all, first thing you want to do is get under here, and you see this, if I can find it here, this little fly nut here, plastic fly nut, that is your drainage pipe for your antifreeze. You first have to take your antifreeze out of your radiator and then start dismantling the hoses and connections and things of that nature. Okay, now I'm gonna come over here a little bit, and I'm gonna show you. Over here, there was a hose connected from the engine to this. Oh, I forgot what they call this thing, but anyway, there was a hose connected to this. This is connected to the radiator, this little pipe. And that was transmission fluid that went in there. Okay, so just keep in mind, when you take the hose out of this, the opposite side of that hose, transmission fluid is going to come out of. See, I have it right here. This hose was hooked up to this little small pipe, and antifreeze was coming out of it, and so I plugged it with a nut and clamped it with the existing clamp that came off the hose. Same over here. There's a little, let's see if I can find, there's a little hose right here. I plugged it, yeah, on this side. It's the same concept. You'll have to, you don't have to plug this hole, but you should, because antifreeze will come out when you pull the radiator out. But there's a little, there was a hose hooked up to this. There it is right there. See, I got it taped off at the end, and I plugged this off. So those are the two main hoses that you will take out to get your radiator. And then there is the other hose, the radiator hose, which hooks up to this. Okay, folks, now this was a pain in the butt taking off. I got so tired of trying to take off this hose that was hooked up to the engine. The hose went from here to the engine. I just slit the hose with an X-Acto knife on both ends where it was connected to. You're looking at it upside down now. So, and I just bought a new hose for 10 bucks. For me, it was worth the time. Not worth the time doing it and just getting a new hose. And now I know I have a new radiator hose. Okay, all right, great. So we're gonna come back up here. I don't have anybody to hold this camera for you, so I'm sorry for all the shaking. I'm gonna show you what it looks like when you take out, when the radiator is completely disassembled. All right, there we go. Take it out slowly, because you still have some things hooked up to it. Oh my gosh. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it around. You'll get a better look at it this way. All right, here you go. You see how I plugged up this hose? This was where the radiator hose hooked up to. Here's another hose that was connected to this radiator. This is just a sensor. I left that plugged in. There was no need to take it out. There's your other hose here, and this was your drainage cap for your transmission, or not transmission fluid, your antifreeze fluid. I said transmission. I'm sorry, folks. It's antifreeze that gets that comes out of this. Transmission fluid comes out of this a little bit, but not a whole lot. You'll have a lot more coming out of your hose, and that's why I plugged it down at the bottom. All right. Okay. So here is my new alternator for my Honda CRV. All right. Before you can even get to that, you have to take off your power steering pump, which is right here. Okay. There are one. Let's see. There's two bolts, one on this end and one beneath the wheel. You need a 14, let me check here, what size socket do you need here? I think you need a 14 millimeter socket to get to that, and a small extension with a ratchet. You should be able to get a 14 or a 12. I'm pretty sure it's one of those two. So yeah, that's how you do that. You also have to, take off your, if you can get away with not taking off your power steering hose, is fine, but you may have to do that. I had to. There's one right there, and it was hooked up to this. I have them both taped off because power steering fluid was leaking a little bit, and being that I was going to work in and around this whole engine, I wanted to be sure that no power steering fluid would fall out. Okay, once I had this off and the old alternator off, I went out and I bought a can of engine cleaner foamy they call it. This stuff works great because you can spray it around all your sensitive wires down below, in and around the engine parts where the alternator was initially at, and you don't have to worry about it corroding your wires. Engine degreaser by Gunk is also good, but that's for mainly the main parts of the engine. You could use it on that too, but you'd have to rinse it off fairly quick and do a really good rinsing. You have to rinse them both off, let them sit for 10 minutes, and then rinse them both off really well. But it should come out looking pretty good when you're done. I always say, if you're going to get into something this deep, don't half-ass it, and just clean whatever you have in and around the components that you're replacing, because there may come a time when you need to get in there again for maybe an oil leak or something you need to try and discover as far as any engine problems are concerned, and at least you have a clean palette to work with, whereas otherwise you wouldn't. Okay, now here's the thing. Once you get the power steering pump back on, your alternator on, your brand new alternator on, okay, don't cheese out on not getting a serpentine belt. All right, that's this thing right here. You're gonna have to take this belt off anyway to get to the alternator first, but my suggestion is don't cheese out on it, and don't go to AutoZone and buy the belt. I've seen their belts, they crack within the first year. You'll just have to replace it again. Go either an OEM brand belt or to a professional auto shop that will help you choose the right belt for your car. The difference between the belts that I've noticed, and I'll show you right now. If you look at this belt right here, you see it has a continuous, Hazel. It has a continuous treading on it. The treading is continuous. Whereas if you look at the other belt from AutoZone, it has these, it's like split in between. So it just seems more liable to cracking. I looked at mine when I pulled it out, and it didn't look that good. It could have looked better for a belt that was only about 1.5 years old. This, I spent $42 for this belt. I think Honda also sells their OEM. This is an OEM brand. I think if you go to the dealer, they may sell it for $70, but nevertheless, that's what, I'm saying just replace the serpentine belt, the drive belt, while you have all this apart, because why do it again? Okay, so that's almost it, folks. I wanted to share this with you because I want you to see that if you know, if you take your time and you take the hoses out of it and disconnect your connections properly, you can do this job. You can, you know, take your radiator out. It can be done. You just have to have the courage to do it, you know. Over here I had to, if you look over here, I also had to take off the shielding where the serpentine belt gets routed to. Okay, you have to take the shielding off to get the belt off. All right, it's all part of the process. And the shielding actually goes from here all the way around to the other sides. There are some little rivets that stick the shielding from underneath the car. You may need some extra rivets. See that hole there? That was a rivet that held the shielding up. But that's kind of the way it goes. I also had to take off this front plate. Now, I don't think you may have to do that. I was sort of in the learning phase of this whole process, and I thought, well, I want more clearance, and I took this off. Okay, you may just need to take off the bracket system that was up here. All right, and that's it. But I did it anyway. I like I said, I like a clear palette to work with, and like to be able to get into areas that are tight as well as possible. So I ended up cleaning the engine. It is cleaner, believe it or not. I mean, it may not look like it now, but now I can see, you know, I also have a small oil leak coming from somewhere. I don't know where exactly, but now I can try and find that later down the road when I'm ready to tackle that job. Now, since you're also here, depending on how many miles you have on your Honda, I would say go ahead and replace your thermostat. See, that's where it goes. Take off your old one. All right, you have access to it now, and go to a Honda dealership and get your OEM brand for this make and model. Okay, do not get AutoZone stuff when it comes to stuff like this. All right, I don't care what they say as far as, oh, you know, ours will last as long as that one, it's equally as good. It's not. All right, there are some things you have to pay money for if you don't want to have to come back and work on it again, especially a job like this. All right, you don't want to have to pull everything out simply because you wanted to save 20 bucks. All right. All right, I guess I can attribute my non-cheapness to running a small business. I say try and get what you pay for right the first time. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. I wish I could have gotten more detail into it with you guys, but I couldn't. I just think that for the do-it-yourselfers who want to go in and replace this alternator, remember, it can be done. I bought this alternator off of, let's see, where did I get it? I think HondaParts.com, cheaphondaparts.com. I mean, they're not cheap Honda parts, but they cost less than going to the dealer. Okay, it's a remanufactured version. All right, you always want to get the OEM version for your car. You don't want to go to AutoZone or I'm not dissing AutoZone all the time. I like AutoZone for some things, but when it comes to stuff like this, I just pay the price and get a good one. All right. The dealer wanted to charge me almost $600 to do this install. Obviously, that was my motivation to get my butt off gear and do it myself. Okay. So if you're wanting to save $500-600 on an install like this, plus the thermostat, I would say do it. This is the way the thermostat looks like. Let's see here. Well, I can't find it now. All right. Thermostat looks like, oh, darn it. Well, it's in this bag and I got one hand and I'm holding it, so hold on a sec. It's the way the thermostat looks, see? When you put it in, it goes in here. Just line it up. Just line it up with that. See, put the bolts back on. And then the other end of that radiator hose goes into there that I was telling you about earlier. Alright folks, that's it for now. I hope this helped you, and have a great day. Please subscribe if you like. Bye.